Hello, everyone. My name is Maureen McDowell. I'm the founder and executive director of Keep St. Pete Lit. We are a literary arts organization based in St. Petersburg, Florida. And this is episode 30 of Typewriter Talks. Typewriter Talks is a weekly online series where we interview Tampa Bay authors and poets. And today we have Yuki Jackson. She is a poet and teacher and all around cool chick. So Yuki, I'm so glad to see you and have you on our show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, you look like an angel with the
Yeah, I'm trying to go for that. See,
I like it.
I'm like a hologram right now.
I know, it's cool.
Yeah, I like
So,
what is it, Coachella?
oh, yeah, I like it. Tell us what you're working on right now.
Well, actually right now I'm working on a book, a collection of poetry.
Mm-hmm.
It is, so I would say maybe like 1% is done as far as finished poems. At least that's how it feels like. You know how it is, like when you're working on, you know what I mean? It's like,
Oh, yeah.
I've done a lot of work on it, you know what I mean? But as far as like the finalized version, yeah, it's probably like 1%. And what's interesting is especially with the pandemic, I went through a phase where I didn't want to write poetry.
Yeah.
For a while, I think, especially just like, as and I feel like you could really, just kind of like being a person who was a lot of times I was on the go.
Yeah.
And I was interacting with so many people constantly. What's interesting is I realized that a lot of my poetry comes out of interactions
Oh,
with
interesting.
people. Yeah, like even if I'm not directly writing about the interaction itself, it's like something about the energy that's exchanged,
Yeah.
whether it's with friends or with my students, especially with teaching, or whatever, even or like being at the grocery store,
Yeah.
what I mean? Whatever it is, I realize there's like a specific energy that I harness
Mm-hmm.
from that kind of fuels my poetry. So yes, I didn't want to write. So I just kind of focused on reading a
Yeah.
lot. And so for several months, I was mostly reading, which was great, and which is what I needed,
Mm-hmm.
right? To like develop myself as a writer anyway. And my mind, I feel like too. Yeah. And then I went, so after this kind of intensive reading phase, I'm continuing to read, but then kind of toward the tail end of that, I then wanted to write essays or just kind of, yeah, like not so much poetry, but I wanted to write about certain things, which is, I think, also was an important process for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then for a while I was, just kind of writing essays and stuff. And then, yeah, I would say just kind of maybe over the past month or so is when kind of the poetry, everyone experiences it, I know, differently, but yeah, kind of like poetry, it's kind of like in my ear, like, okay, like I'm ready now,
Pay attention to me.
yeah, pay attention to me, get back. So then, and what I realized though is that, so I felt the urge and the calling, right, to like start working on my poetry again, but because it had been a minute since I was like in that kind of a zone or headspace, I forced myself to get back in that headspace. So the way I did it was I signed up for a bunch of virtual readings, like of other people's, and other, places and stuff. So like I basically scheduled, my goal was to like schedule every day for the month of October that I would attend some kind of virtual thing. Yeah. And so, some of them I ended up not being able to make it or whatever, but most of them I did. And what I found is like, just through watching other people and, kind of being in that kind of space with poets again, yeah, it kind of sparked something, so yeah. Anyway, so that's
No, I think that's great because we are in this virtual world, and I mean, we're getting access to writers that we would not have had access before.
Exactly.
We have to see in person, and it's like that's such a great idea, and also to talk about like the process of writing is not always necessarily writing. It is like you were reading, writing other people's writing, you were listening to other people's writing. So that's all part of the process to get you back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I have,
I think that's really cool. What a good idea to like schedule up, because it's basically like a whole month of master classes for free right now.
it is like one of them that I signed, and then a lot of them are like things that, like I would have never even heard of, right, had it not been, you know, this situation with the quarantine. Like, for example, one of the events I signed up for, and it was all free, that's the thing
Yeah.
too, and normally, right, you would have to pay all this money. It was it's called the Brooklyn Book Festival.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's this like, festival based in Brooklyn, which I
Mm-hmm.
would have never gone to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and yeah, for, like, there was one of the days that I went to almost like the entire day. Every hour they had some kind of session. Like, so I
Wow.
saw like Yusuf Komunyakaa and like, you know, Jericho Brown, you know, like all these amazing, you know, John Murillo. Um, yeah, anyway, you know, just like read and share their work and their words. So yeah, Claudia Rankine, like it was just like this all-star kind of thing. But even if, you know, even with like a smaller venue and, you know, other readers or poets or writers that, you know, I wasn't aware of even, you know, there were so many you know, quality work and you know, writing that I needed to hear. So
Mm-hmm.
just think, and then I think there's just always, you know, and for, you know, you're so generous, so I feel like you're already kind of on this ball, you know, always. But I also feel like there's something about you know, kind of that energy of like supporting others, right, that, you know what I mean, and that ultimately helps you.
Yeah.
I think as an artist and as a writer, it's kind of easy to get submerged into our own ego intensively. And it's, you know, because it is, a lot of it is driven by it. And, you know, I don't even think ego in itself is necessarily a bad thing, you know, because it can drive us, right, for achievement. And there's that part of us that's like, hey, like, you know, we need to like honor ourselves, which I think is important. But I think it can also be where, you know, kind of get very self-absorbed. So I think that's it. So again, it just kind of goes back to, for me, like poetry comes out of, you know, interacting and then supporting others, ironically, you know, and then like,
So,
yeah, like through doing that, then I kind of dive back into myself in a
yeah.
deeper way, you know?
Well, and if you think about, you know, the concept that we're all connected,
Yeah.
I think that, you know, that's probably my mantra, my
Yeah.
religion. And I
Yeah.
think that, you know, if you are being of service, you're also being of service to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that that concept of I really, you know, especially in America, it can be such a detriment. I mean, it's important to, as you said, to achieve and forward your things, but if you're not bringing people along, you know, they say a leader is the last person to eat, you know, like you
Mhm.
want to, and especially as poets, you know, I say this a lot, like there's like the saddest thing to me is reading a poem and I'm just like, I got absolutely nothing out of this. Like what were you're showing that you can do fancy words, like, you know, I want to feel moved or changed or transmuted somehow when I read a poem. And
Sure.
so we have to take care of ourselves as creatives, you know, and this is a crazy time. You know, I said to you before we started this video, all I'm doing right now is listening to music because I'm just not feeling creative, but it's helping me kind of go down that rabbit hole and like, you know, harvest and till the soil a bit. And also we're moving towards the shortest time of the year. You know, that's a tricky thing about Christmas. It's the time, ramp up, bye, but it's actually the shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, when we should get quieter and quieter and quieter. So, you
Oh
know,
wow, I didn't think about that.
yeah, well, yeah, the winter solstice and the days are getting shorter in the Northern Hemisphere. So we are going into this kind of even more of a cocoon.
Yeah.
Um, naturally, it's part of our, you know, because we are part of the earth. I'm getting all like witchy now.
Earth, yeah.
It's a full moon. It's a full moon tomorrow, Halloween. But so tell us, what would be a typical day as a writer like? Because you teach, But you're not teaching currently, but how does it look for you? Are you a morning writer, an afternoon, evening writer?
Yeah, so I'm fortunately like the space that I'm in right now is I'm an all day writer.
Mhm.
So but in that I have, I have to kind of structure myself throughout the week. So I take it, so there's like, so about 5, to 6 to 7, even, I would say more like, I'm trying to make it where it's more like 6 days, 5 to 6 days a week. I have been scheduling myself to write the majority of the day.
Nice.
But that also means part of it is like, so it's not just like me physically writing. So part of it is me physically writing. So I might start out, let's say, I'll just give an example day, I guess. I wake up, I do my morning like stretches and stuff like that. I don't know how detailed you want the day, because I'm
No,
like, I brush my teeth, like,
no, you're
oh, okay, so I
do 100 push-ups.
yeah,
And
nobody
I
wants to know that.
yeah,
So yeah,
I
I
have to be that
stretch. Yeah,
detailed. I have
uh,
oatmeal with blueberries. No.
yeah, I put on clothes, and then no, so then I do like morning chanting and stuff, and then I have sometimes, I don't do this every day, but sometimes when I need to get myself going, I'll do a free write
Mm,
exercise,
very
to get my brain in that mode. I just from different places and Twitter or other places, I've compiled this pretty lengthy list of, all these random prompts. So I'll just like pick one, and then I put a timer on, and then
nice.
I'll like force myself to just like do stream of consciousness writing
Mhm.
until the timer goes off. So that's been helpful. And then, after that, then I will schedule a certain amount of hours to work on a specific poem or piece of writing.
Mhm.
And then, I keep, like, obviously, there's like several Google Docs, but, so like in terms of like, keeping track of what I'm working on, so I'll have my kind of overall writing to-do list. It's like, here are the essays that I've finished, I think, for the most part, but still need this much more polishing. And here's these other ones that are maybe halfway done, or that ones I just kind of barely started and need to work on a lot, or so I kind of rank them
Yeah.
in the categories. And then I do the same with poetry, with what poems I've finished and but need to polish, and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of refer to this list,
Yeah.
and I don't always go in order. I also, for me, through the chanting and just kind of intuition and stuff, I just kind of also, pay attention to like which piece of work is calling me at a specific point. So then, what I feel compelled to work on. So then, so I'll work on, maybe a new piece, or I'll go back and work on, something I had started last week that I now feel I now have come up with what the missing piece was, or what needs to change,
Yeah.
so I just kind of do it that way. Right. And so I'll do that for a few hours. And then at some point, I will, like I said, I've been almost every day, attending a reading, or a virtual reading. So I will partake in that. That's usually more in the evening though. And then at some point in the day, I also schedule a chunk of time to read, you
Yeah.
know so like reading, whether it's the book that I'm currently reading, or hitting up some literary journals online, or and then I've also made a part of my writerly practice, because for a long time I really, I can even say I necessarily like it, but I really resisted Twitter. Uh,
Mm,
just as a platform, I'm not a fan,
yeah.
and so, you know, but I also saw that there's kind of a very active literary world that's on there. And
Mhm.
so I realized that that's for not, I don't think it's for everybody, but I realized for me, it was important to put a little bit more effort to connect to more people in that sphere. And so, I do this once a week, kind of dutifully, but I'm like, okay, from this time to this time, I'm going to like go into Twitter, you know,
Yeah.
then I like, kind of go through, people's accounts and read information. And the thing is, with Twitter, there's, so many people putting out links to their work, that I would have never otherwise known about, because they're not necessarily like mainstream,
Yeah.
big names or whatever, but it's like really great work. So for that, and then also a lot of people post opportunities, on there for like fellowships or submission, opportunities for different lit journals and whatnot. So, so then I'm taking notes, making note of that. And so, I'm kind of counting that as a part of my writerly life too. So yeah,
That's
so
all
it's
good information. That's all really, really good information for people that we haven't gotten yet.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, especially Twitter. But even like the free write idea and like going and watching videos, like those are all, but you've created this, you know, entire life around getting your work done and
Yeah.
what works for you. And it's very structured and you have a specific time for each thing you do. And you're inspiring me. I'm like, ooh, I need to get more organized. It's funny. But I understand like when you're editing a poem, like a certain poem might call you that it's like,
Maureen, can you hear me?
yeah. Can you not hear me? Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yep. I can hear you now. Sorry.
Okay.
It cut
Yeah.
off for a second. Yeah.
Oh, my internet connection was unstable. Let's
Oh, okay.
add that to 2020. My internet connection is unstable. So I don't know if anyone heard what I said, but I was just saying you gave a lot of really positive ideas on crafting, a writer life and discipline and how to get things done. And also like I relate to the idea of when editing a poem, it like I may start on editing a poem and it's not the day for that poem. And like if I could just like beat myself up like you're not getting this done, you have to, but it's like no, move on to another one, and then the other one is like ready to be edited.
Yeah, no, what's crazy is like, so I recently had that experience where I was like, there was one that like I was very frustrated with and it just like wasn't working with me, and so I was like, okay, let me like let it go for a second, it's gonna be right there, and just like so then I felt like kind of drawn to this other one that I hadn't worked on at all, right?
Yeah.
But the thing was, when I went to go work on this other one, that one was like, it was, I don't know, it was like almost kind of like a Matrix moment where I was like, oh, like it was just like very easy to manipulate, and like it was like done very quickly as far as the editing. So I was like, and it felt right, and it
Yeah.
felt complete. So I was like, wow, okay. So that was kind of a lesson for me to like always listen, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
then it's not always necessarily that ever, I don't know, for me, sometimes creating can be this this very like arduous, like painful process, but I realize if you kind of listen, like what needs to be done, you're going to be able to do in a more effective way. And then what happened is when I kind of left one of them alone that I was stuck with, when I went back, I was able to see it in a fresher, like a sharper way.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Sarah Reese is one of our teachers, and she was interviewed for Typewriter Talks, and she talked about how I guess I had brought up to her that sometimes you have to live a poem before you can write part of it, and I
oh yeah.
think maybe even editing it, like you have to, because you're going to bring fresh eyes to it than when you wrote it, and there might have been like it might not be the time for you to edit something because you haven't lived something that you can add to it, or
Sure.
and I do believe in like divine timing, like everything, like even when we're coming up with event ideas, until I can kind of see the structure of it and it kind of resonates and like it has this like ping sound or I get goosebumps, it's like not time yet. And
Right.
you just like put it aside. But that, we're such a like structured yang culture.
Yeah.
That's very yin energy of like the receiving and the waiting and the intuition. And I think that as creatives, you have to have a balance of the yin and the yang. Well, everyone should have a balance of the yin and the yang, but
Yeah.
especially in creative work, there is a time for it to kind of sit for a bit and marinate. And then it'll be juicier. It's like a cooking reference.
Yeah, no, and you know what's funny is as you were talking, I was thinking about rutabaga for some reason. I don't even eat rutabagas. I don't even really what that. I think it's like a type of anyway, but it's like rutabaga is in my head. But I was imagining as you were talking, like a rutabaga, like whatever my imagination thinks of a rutabaga is like in my head, and like yeah, when the rutabaga is ready, it'll be juicy and tasty. Rutabagas are juicy, but and then like if you pluck it, like too prematurely, it's like you just you're not gonna get to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I get it. So let us know, what are some of your themes in your poetry? What are some of the themes that you are, because poets tend to be drawn back to the same types of things, but
so primarily my work is centered on the idea of reincarnation, and the interconnectedness of all life. And so through my experiences, I catalog the voice of historically excluded, the divine feminine figure. And so in all of my poetry, actually, so I'm basically linking together kind of these historical figures at different times, like whether it's like the Virgin Mary figure, or the wife of Jesus, the wife of Buddha, somebody called Many Treasures Buddha, the Dragon King's daughter, and anyway, all these different women in different incarnations I'm tying together through my own personal experience in this lifetime. So that's sort of the dominant premise of my poetry, even when I'm not directly talking about that. That's sort of kind of like the point of why I'm writing, is to document that. And then in addition to that, kind of prevalent themes include like social justice and racial discrimination. A lot of it's kind of based on, I would say, challenging misogyny and the patriarchy, and tipping the scale back to, the matriarchy, so that, we can, like you said, have the balance, because it is so off into the patriarchal side, obviously. So that's my shtick. And, and then a lot of it, I may not have mentioned, but just because a lot of the poetry I write is is inspired by interaction with people. So there's a lot of moments of whether it's a stranger or a loved one, intimate partner, the youth that I work with, or students, family. All of that makes an appearance in my work. So I would say those are some of the main ones.
I love it. What advice would you give your younger writer self?
Take it more seriously. Yeah. I mean, and it's always the question of like, well, had I done this, you know what I mean? Like, had I changed this, then, you know what I mean? Like, it, because it's the belief that it's like, it might have changed the trajectory. So, I consider myself a late bloomer, in terms of growing as an artist. I'm 38 years old, and I feel like I am an emerging poet. That's a fact. And I feel proud of that. I also feel proud that, so I lived a life where, I had dropped out of high school at one point, and I went back, and, I failed entire semesters of community college. And so I quit going to community college, and I kind of just, messed around for like most of my 20s. And I worked at like a gas station. I worked as a janitor. I worked as a waitress and as a receptionist and at a foster care agency. I just worked I probably worked like 20, like seemingly totally unrelated jobs.
Me too.
And I just, and I dated, or, and had, experiences and did all kinds of stuff that I would not do now, like that, anyway, like harmful behaviors or whatever. So I really like fully lived my 20s out that way, kind of seemingly aimlessly, but just accumulating a bunch of experiences and going through a lot of like struggle too.
And you were a poet the whole time.
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
a poem about that. I did this. I had many jobs on my path to being a
Yeah,
poet. Midwife, all these things, waitress,
yeah,
blah, blah, but I was a poet all along. So were
exactly.
you. You were getting the gristle of the poetry for now. Yeah.
Completely. So I think on two levels. One was that getting the like actual like literal material, right, to
Yeah.
like create from, so that I'm not just sort of like like kind of being a superficial poet, if that makes sense, not to be judgmental, but you know what I mean, but just kind of, I'm not writing from a superficial place
Yeah.
or about experience. These are actual experiences I've gone through. And secondly, I think like, as like, I think anybody who's just kind of been through stuff is like, yeah, you're gonna write from a deeper place too. So I think, and not everybody has to, I think, because I've met children, right, who are like 5 years old who've already have this kind of very worldly sense of self, or they've been through things, and so I don't necessarily,
You don't have to have trauma to be a poet.
right, I don't think you have to have extensive trauma or prolonged trauma or anything like that, but I just think there's something about, um I guess I'll just kind of attribute it to me. Like, that's what I had to experience to cultivate my humanity. Um, yeah, so that I'm grateful for. So, but that being said, there's times where I wished I had taken, especially my schooling early on. I wish I'd take more seriously, and, but, and I think with writing, you know what? Maybe it would have been to read more too, because now I feel like I'm kind of catching up.
Yeah.
I feel like the writing part could have come later, but I think I do wish I would have read more. Yeah, so I would say just that, read more.
So on that note, what are you reading right now, and who are some of your favorite authors?
Yeah, I have it right here. I have.
Hey.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, this is the current book. I just started reading it. I got this from Tumblr Books.
Yeah.
It's called Edward. No, it's not called. It's, the author is Edward P. Jones. Um, he is a fiction writer. And so this one is called Lost in the City. And so he has two collections of short stories. This is actually the first one, but I read his second collection first. That one was called All on Hagar's Children. And then he won a Pulitzer Prize for a novel called The Known World.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, so I've just recently, kind of got into his work, and it's so good. So I'm getting so much out of it. Like, even though he's not a poet,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I feel like at the root of all quality writing, it's the same qualities
Yeah.
that go into it, right? It's the same thing, because when he's writing, and at a certain point, I'm like, God, like, this is incredible poetry. So I'm learning a lot. And I think for me, even though you may not be able to, for people watching may not be able to tell, because I feel like I'm being very verbose because I feel comfortable with you right now, but I'm not, at least I used to not be a very like verbally or like very kind of like articulate or like expressive person. I would say for the majority of my life, I had a really hard time expressing myself, communicating, saying what's on my mind, expressing what's in my heart, what I think, and all that, right? And so, and I think that's why I teach right now, because it's like, I know now, wow, like the power, right, of like having that tool. So anyway, I'm finding that something about writing or reading a fiction writer or somebody like Edward P. Jones, I think it's like helping me to learn how to better articulate and describe, like scenes, and, because I guess because the form is like longer.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like a fully flushed out, more like a story and the description. I don't know. There's just something about the abundance of language.
Yeah.
And even though as a poet, it's like we're training, or maybe even I think my natural mind is a poet, where I naturally want to condense, I naturally want to kind of
Yeah.
reduce it down, right, to its shortest essence, which I think is needed. But I realized for me, because I naturally do that anyway, I don't need to push that about myself to
Mm.
condense. You know what I mean? I needed to learn how to, yes, exactly. I needed to learn how to expand. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing through reading, books like him. And then recently I read, as far as like a poet, the book I read before this was, it was Jericho Brown's The Tradition.
Yeah, I have that.
Yeah, it's so like, I was just really moved by his humanity. Like, I don't know.
I love the cover art. I love it.
Yeah,
It's so beautiful and
it really is.
timely, but not timely. It has this otherworldliness, but current, which is just lovely when art can do that.
For sure. Yeah, I was like looking up that artist too. Now that you're saying that, yeah, and I was like looking at their other art.
It's also beautiful to see, it dominantly traditionally, I don't know what the word is, but if you do see a person of color, their skin's lighter,
Yeah,
and the cover art is like a dark skinned girl, and it's just like, I believe it's a girl.
I think it might be a boy
It
too.
may, yeah. As I'm saying this, I go, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But just to see that on the cover of a book that has, he's all over the place. Like he was picked, and Claudia Rankine, for to write about the pandemic for the New York Times, like the two of them, and the Black Lives Matter movement. It's all tied in. What a year, Jesus.
Yeah.
Not that the Black Lives Matter movement is just this year, but everything just bubbled up. And just to see a person of color that isn't the traditional lighter skinned, because I have a lot of friends that are dark skinned, and they do talk about even the hierarchy, even in the African American community, of skin tones. And we don't think about that. We don't think about privilege coming from, at least white people. We don't think of that because we're all we're not judged because our hair is a little redder. Some people are. My brother who's a redhead would contest that.
Yeah.
But
Well, I was gonna say that because I mean, do you think it would be the case for like a white person, like let's say who has like blonde hair and blue eyes,
good point.
like maybe like
Yeah.
a versus like
Yeah.
brown hair? I don't know if it's as pronounced as it is within the Black community, you know what I mean? Because like you said, yeah, because I know because I'm mixed, I'm very aware, right, of certain, I feel, or I sense I probably may have certain access, that may be like a darker skinned, full like Black woman, right? Like may not have, like I have a certain hair texture, you know what I mean? Like, and I was like thinking too, I was like, technically I because so many people ask me if I'm Hawaiian, right? Or from the South Pacific Islands. I was like, I guess if I wanted to, I could like pass, you know what I mean? Like
My
even
friend Marika is like that.
yeah,
She is all kinds of things. She called herself a mutt growing up. Like she's all kinds of things, but she passes for Indian, she passes for Jamaican, she passes as mixed. She like it, I mean, and even her name Ulrika is Swedish, which is funny.
oh,
Yeah, but she passes for all different types. She doesn't pass for white, but not that it's interesting. But yeah, what you mentioned about blondes, traditionally, like blonde women are not considered as intelligent. Like there's all kinds of things. The intersectionalities of privilege, and where we're privileged in some ways, like I am as a white person, but I'm not necessarily privileged as a woman. There's so many different things. And I think that's where the fruit is as a writer, is to like talk about those different things. And if you could shine a light on that and show that, especially to younger people, that they can advocate for themselves, because that's what you're doing as a writer. You're advocating for yourself, but also as service, you're advocating for your community. Not always, but I know who you are, so that is usually your intention. So This is so fruitful. I love these kind of conversations. Another question would be, who are some of your favorite writers? Did you already answer that with Jared? You mentioned Jared
Um,
Brown.
no, I mean, those, I definitely, I would say definitely now they are among that list,
Mhm.
a growing list of writers that I get a lot of inspiration from. But my all-time favorite, um, writer slash poet is Lucille Clifton.
Mm,
Yeah, she's my all-time favorite. I feel like I feel like she like has my heart, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like because she has so much heart in
yeah.
her writing, and I really appreciate how she has such a distinct voice and a perspective and style of writing that
Yeah.
was so starkly different from
Mhm.
maybe other poets, right, who are kind of more and I think again, like, kind of going back to how I feel like kind of now I'm learning to how to expand. So I think for her, because she writes with such concision,
Yeah.
I felt when I first read her, like, okay, it's okay that I don't have like, I'm not like kind of very super eloquent and articulate and going on and on and on in
Yeah.
this kind of superfluous way, as like, I feel like sometimes, poetry is associated with,
Yeah.
which I appreciate in itself too, as right, as a type of style, but that's not me. That's not how I speak or how I think. So I honestly kind of felt like kind of alienated from a lot of what people consider poetry. But anyway, when I read her work, I feel like I'm not an alien, if that
Mm.
makes
Yeah.
yeah. So she's my all-time fave. And then then I have some other favorite, like Mary Ruefle,
Mhm.
other poet. I really like, again, just her very distinct voice and style. How she kind of, also has kind of like a collage style where she, pieces together seemingly unrelated objects and ideas, but, kind of, very tightly
Mhm.
connects them in a space of a poem. I also, I like Robert Hayden. I like, and then, some writers, some of my I realize I get a lot of inspiration because I'm a very spiritually based person. I get a lot of inspiration from um, text, like religious or spiritual text. So to me, I'm not like competing, but in a sense, like almost like I feel like I'm going for what, like, the historical Buddha, right? Like, uh pronounced in scriptures or the Bible, or like, I know not everybody looks at those as pieces of literature, but I think you can practice it but also still appreciate um its literary aspects of
Narrative.
them. Yeah, so those kind of texts, or so for me, any sort of religious text, and or even kind of an epic, like a Homer, I
Yeah.
feel very also inspired by because a lot of most of the poetry that I've been putting into my collection, current and my past one, is narrative, and so I like poetry that's more narrative in a sense, I think. So yeah, so I get inspiration from those.
It's awesome. So one more question and then we'll hear some of your work. What would be your holy grail piece of writing advice?
um this, I feel like it's the advice that I'm going to say is what I need to say to myself. And
Cool.
this is what's coming up immediately, is like, take your time.
Mm.
Yeah, which is really hard because this is a very hard lesson that I'm still trying to swallow every day, actually. But it's, I feel like my wisdom is telling me, like, just, I, I'm realizing the importance of being steady,
Mhm.
like having discipline to continuously work, you
Mhm.
know, not like, not that you don't rest and stuff, you know what I mean? But I mean to
Yeah.
like continue the work, to like every day try to put something toward what you are striving to do as a writer, whether, like you said, whether it's reading or researching, or sometimes it's even interacting with people, right? Because that's going to
Yeah.
sparks inspiration, but at least to always have that intention that this will cultivate your writing and
Mm.
to continue to do that. But also, like, kind of going back to what we're talking about with the editing part, but also not trying to force things, not trying to force a material, not trying to force, like a piece of work, and before it's ready. And so just like continuing to, um so maybe it's not slow, right? Because it slow would indicate maybe it's behind.
Mm.
And I think that kind of comes to, I would say it's tied into not, this isn't, I feel like maybe number two is like, not comparing ourselves or myself with other people.
Yeah.
That's a huge one too, because I think, that's very easy to do, so I'm, to kind of judge myself based on, where other people are at, or what other people are doing. And,
Mhm.
I'm not like that, so there must be something wrong with me. I'm behind, I'm slow. Or, even for me, I feel kind of my style in poetry is also kind of, I don't feel like it's something I kind of necessarily see a lot.
Yeah.
So instead of kind of embracing that and celebrating that, I'm like, oh, like,
Oh.
maybe there's something wrong with me, because I don't write like other people. So I think it's just really, to kind of accept, like, this has actually become one of my daily prayers, like in my head as I'm doing my chanting, is like, I will accept myself, I will embrace myself, and I will cherish myself, and I feel that that extends to the writing, and in trusting it is where it needs to be. Just take your time, it's your time, it's your work's time,
Mhm.
and like trust that and just steadily continue along the path.
Now, I relate to every single thing you just said because I don't feel like my poetry necessarily fits with status, other people's. There's 10 years between my last book and the book that I'm working on now. I thought it was going to be done over the summer, but it looks like it's going to be the beginning of the year. Um, and I could get all caught up. Like I'm not following a traditional route as other poets in our community, even that I'm friends with.
Sure.
But it's like, I have to just trust that, I'm a single parent. I have an organization. I have to support myself. Like everything is happening exactly as it should.
Yeah.
And I think that comes with age, where you kind of have lived enough that that things happen when they're meant to. And then you'll go, oh my God, that's why that took so
Yeah.
long. Because this thing had to show up and it wasn't ready for this thing to show up, and then da 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 da. So, and it is a practice, because you can get caught up in things. I got caught up today. I saw a success of somebody and I was like a little like, whoa, but I was like, nope, I have to trust I'm on the right path, and I am doing things every day to stay on my path and in my lane.
Yeah.
And so that's wonderful advice, to and then also think, we're going to live a long life.
Yeah.
We're going to live a long life, so we got a lot more writing to do.
Yeah,
So
for
so
sure.
let's hear some of your writing, please, and thank you so much for all your wisdom.
Oh my God, thank you for this. This has been so like sustaining.
Mm.
Okay, so yeah, I haven't this is a poem that so I'm gonna read a couple, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So this first one, I actually haven't read this in a while. Um and yeah, but this was actually the first poem I ever read out loud to in front of other people.
Mhm.
So I don't know, for whatever reason, I feel compelled to share
I
this
love
one.
it.
Yeah. So, um, okay, this one is called Bodhisattvas of the Earth Drive Through in Vehicles. So, okay. Okay. And there's a like an epigraph that goes with it. And that one is an innumerable host of bodhisattvas who emerge from beneath the earth and to whom Shakyamuni Buddha entrusts the propagation of the mystic law or the essence of the Lotus Sutra and the latter day of the law. And that comes from the Dictionary of Buddhism. And the poem goes, I hear the ringtone as I arrive at a drive-in theater fairground. The ground is fair when it's a dirt floor. Led by a global voice, the backlight glows and apps bring the back to the fore as my love shows me a lion outfit photo stored in his phone. We drive in, Dharma wheels so big, we spin it on 44s. We left the comfort of home, watch a film from the car because of the principal. Some sit with luxury to blast AC, some low on gas roll down windows. Dreadlocks, inked arms, and gold teeth. Velour suits are lion skin. Sneakers with 3 stripes or checks sewn in. Refreshments courtesy of Popeyes. Fried chicken has replaced spinach. Beams of light emitted on flat surface, we see moving images. Dust particles swirl and raise. Disney plays, we live in suspended animation. The end credits begin another movie. We don't leave. I hear engines. More are coming. And then...
I love that because it's like the time of the drive-in movies again.
Yeah.
You know, like my daughter went to one like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, she went to go see Nightmare on Elm Street. I cannot believe I let her go.
Oh.
Yeah. And they watched something else. What?
Did she like it?
Yeah, she likes those kinds of.
Okay.
I can't handle horror at all.
Me either. I think for being like highly sensitive or something, I don't know. I think it's just I start living it and I'm like going around the bushes or something,
yeah. I binge watched Game of Thrones and I felt like I had such anxiety that whole week. Like I only watched like 3 or 4 episodes and I swear I thought someone was going to come with a sword around every corner and kill me. And I had to stop watching it. I was like, I can't watch this show.
Yeah.
Like I'm way too visual.
We're like immersed in it.
Yeah. That was lovely.
Yeah, but no, thank you. Yeah, so and you know what? I forgot about that. Yeah, so maybe that's why, right? Because now we're kind of going back to the beginning, so to speak, in ways, right? Like in our existence. So, and then this, the second one I rendered. This one is just, this is a shorter, or it's like a short poem, but this is, it's called Rocket Ships, and this one, was inspired, by interaction I had with when I was working at the library in Sulphur Springs. So rocket ships. Let's see. Okay. I make toilet paper roll rocket ships with the kids. We use orange and red tissue for flame expulsion, white paper to wrap the body, and Crayola to stain markings. We place star stickers all over. I tell them when it's time to put the pieces together, come see me at the front desk so we can use the stapler. I write on the example, USA, followed by my name. One boy with doe eyes and matted dreads writes on his, I love you, mama. They tie strings to fly them like kites. I tell them these aren't meant for that. Ignoring my warning, they drag them across the ground and run and run.
Oh, I love it. I love you, Mama.
Yeah. It's just like, thank you for the opportunity to share. And
Yuki, thank you.
And
thank you for this. And it's good to see you because I haven't seen you since the pandemic. And it's nice to like hear your brain. And your heart and your
I have a brain.
I know. No, that's why I love Typewriter Talks because it's like I mean, it almost is kind of like therapy, but it's not intentional. But I think it's good to kind of see what wealth of writers and talent and heart and all the things that we have in the Tampa Bay area. So thank you for
You
doing it.
really do. It's
I
amazing.
know. I know. I'm like, I
It's
can't
kind
believe
of
it's
mind
our
blowing. I don't think we realize. I mean, we maybe. I mean, maybe you realize it, but I don't think a lot of people realize.
I mean, this is our 30th episode, and there's so many writers I haven't even like covered, because I really try to like balance them between like, you know, not all white men. You know, I try to like have male, female. I lean more towards women. That's kind of funny. Like I'm like, I gotta get more men on here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? But it's just because I have a lot of women writer friends. But
Yeah.
I mean, we're at episode 30, and there's a lot of people I haven't even reached out to. So it's cool. I'm grateful. So thank you for your time, and thank you so much for joining us for episode 30 of Typewriter Talks. We will be back next Tuesday for episode 31. And if you want to know more about Keep St. Pete Lit, you can go to keepstpetelit.org. We have book clubs and poetry open mics. We're going to have a flash fiction night, all different types of events, writing classes online, classes for kids, all kinds of things. So Yuki, thank you. And everyone, thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back next week.